Well, hey, Accelerated Geography students, Mr. Bayesian here. Right now you've got two things in front of you. You've got your North Korea Almanac entry, or the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The substitutor teachers handed this out to you, along with your half sheet of paper that tells you the different categories to look at, and then your notebook. And you've probably written on the back side, so you can probably go to the next page and jotting down a few things. Now, what we've asked you to do is to look and to basically determine this question here. Looking at the statistics for North Korea, is it a developed or a developing country? And so you've been going through collecting information through A through K, but you didn't have to write A through K down. You're just looking for a couple of things because at this point now, you're an expert. These were just to help you out. But you've looked through it, and here's what I'm going to ask you to do. You're actually going to write a paragraph explaining why the country is developed or developing based upon the Almanac entry. You have to have a topic sentence, at least 3 pieces of evidence from the Almanac with an elaboration to support your answers, aka a chunk, and a conclusion for your paragraph. So, let's make it really simple. You're going to answer this question: is it a developed or developing country? What I would do for my topic sentence is tell me, is it developed or developing? And then give me 3 chunks: evidence and analysis or elaboration. Now if you're like, Bayesian, what do you like? Evidence, elaboration? Well, take a look. This is what you've been doing. This is my example I gave for the United States. And there's my topic sentence. It's developed, right? Obviously that would be in a complete sentence. And then chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3. So you've been doing this all along, and then all you need to do is tack on a transition or a close for that paragraph there. So make sure it's in TEST, 3 chunks, developed or developing. I'm going to ask the sub or teacher to pause this video right now. Take the time that you need to write your paragraph in your notebook on the next page, and we'll come back and I'll reveal some answers, and we'll catch you from there. Alright, welcome back. I bet you're ready to figure out, is North Korea a developed or developing country? You ready for the reveal? The correct answer for North Korea, as I take a look through all of these facets of what it has, is that it is officially a developing country. So those of you that put it's a developing country, congratulations, you ended up cracking the code that's here. Now some of you are like, wait a second, it's developed, Bayesian. Well, let me show you some key parts here, and then I'll talk through my paragraph. You probably look 60% urban. You're like, okay, there's a lot of people living in the cities that are here. The economy, well, your best part of taking a look at this is actually your finances, with GDP per capita being only 1,800. Well, Bayesian, what about the labor force? Well, look at that. 35% agriculture, 65% industry and service. If I slash that in half, we're looking in the 60% range of secondary and primary industries. Well, Bayesian, but they live okay, and their literacy rate's 100%, but I would argue with you and say, look, very little TVs, very little globalization, but you want to know the key part of all of this, and it's something that we haven't even taken a look at as you were going through your different steps. But notice this, it's a communistic state, and what we know by communism is that everything is controlled by the government. So take a look at my example here. North Korea is a developing country because its GDP per capita, labor force, and communication. So notice here, I'm going to write on this just a little bit for you all. Notice here, not only did I say that it was developing, but I gave the reasons why. And I'm going to ask you to do that same thing for your topic sentence. Bayesian, these lines aren't straight. Just deal with it. Writing on a computer is a pretty tough thing. So, if you need to make the changes as I'm talking through, make the changes to your paragraph here. The next one, chunk number 1, you'll notice that I've used the example. So I've got a statistic or a proper noun. Shows a low amount of goods and services produced in a year. Second, here's my second chunk. All right. Labor force is made up of over half primary and secondary activities. There we go, putting in some vocabulary terms that are here. Around 67%. Awesome. Chunk 2. And then I explained it. Here's my elaboration here to show higher levels of job activities. Awesome. And then chunk 3. Finally, no access to the internet. I list 172 TVs per 1,000. But then I explain it, and not just saying the telecommunication network is weak, but that it's got a limited and censored at best. So these 3 reasons with a communistic government show North Korea is a developing country. And there's my close right there. So I want you to go through right now. I want you to check what you've got for me, making sure you've got your topic sentence, which I've got here, listing the reasons why you're putting what you're putting. Your 3 chunks, along with your close that's here. That's what you're always checking through. Now, I'm going to ask the teacher sub to pause this right now to give you just a few minutes to go through, make the necessary changes you need in your notebook, and then we'll play the rest of this video. Alright, you're back with me. Let me make some connections for you of what you've been doing the last couple of blocks in class. As you've looked at the Almanac entries, I want you to think of the almanacs on a developing to developed spectrum that's here, with a 0 being the poorest of the poor countries to developed on a 10 being the richest of the rich. And I want you to notice that that's this. I don't want you to think of developed and developing as just a 0 and a 10, but actually a 0 to a 10. That some countries like Japan are incredibly rich, or Israel's that maybe I would put at more of like a 9 or an 8 here, to the Sierra Leones of the world, or the Afghanistans that are the 1s and the 2s. Those are usually the very easy ones to go through, right? The ones that I've listed that are here, and usually you could tell me through a couple of statistics, yeah, Bajan, that's developed or developing. But here's where it gets interesting. These are the ones that have a mixture of both. So North Korea, some of you may have said it's developed, but it's not like a 10 developed. We labeled the fact that it was developing, but it's definitely not a 0. So it might be in this in-between range. Or those of you that got Nicaragua could probably put it in that in-between range. I would probably put it at more of a 4, whereas Syria, I might put it directly as maybe like a 5.1. And so notice that there's spectrums of where these are grouped in. Now here's something else interesting. What do you notice as you're taking a look through here? If you take a look, you're going to see some groupings of countries that have similar regions. Niger, Congo, in Africa, Pakistan, Cambodia, Afghanistan, Middle Eastern area to Asia. Whereas over in the developed category, you've got Germany and Iceland and Norway, all European countries, to where you've got Israel and even Japan, some more developed countries here. So if I'm taking a look at the map that I've got here, you're going to notice that most developed countries are grouped together, whereas developing countries, the poorest of the poor, are usually in the same region. Take Africa, for example, and parts of the Middle East out here. The lighter the color, the more developing it is. Whereas the darker the color, the more developed. So you'll notice the U.S. is, most of Europe is grouped together in there, which would be your countries that are here. Whereas you've got the Afghanistans, the Sierra Leones, and the Pakistans, which are in the Middle Eastern areas that are out here. The one difference is that Israel kind of stands out. We'll talk about that semester of why that does. So does Saudi Arabia and Qatar and some of these other countries that are out here as well. But you'll notice Japan's dark here, South Korea is dark, but North Korea right here is pretty light as a developing country. So don't think of developed and developing as one or the other, but a spectrum. Well, I hope this helps with your writing that we've talked about today, with North Korea, with the spectrum, and even looking at the GDP map that's here. If you've got any other questions, feel free to talk with me or email me when you can. I'll talk with you all soon. Thanks.